It's the fall. Time flies when you're having fun. We started these about 4 years ago as an opportunity for the community to come in and speak with us. And that is what we are tonight. We have no agenda as such from the board. I believe Don mentioned we might have some comments written down previously. He'll bring those up to me and I'll present them. But other than that, is there anyone who would like to address the board? Please, just welcome.
Yeah, here. Thank you. There's probably a little switch there, sir.
Stay right on the top.
Right next to the round part at the top? No, right there. Yeah, there you go. Right up there.
How's that, Bob?
Let's try it again.
My name's Joe Golden.
Thank you.
I've been a citizen or part of the townships for 62 years now. I've lived in the township, born and raised here, lived here my whole life.
Can't hear you.
All right, I've lived here my whole life. All right, now, what I haven't really followed this too much until the point where you guys were denied from the supervisors building this new facility. And then after you said that you were going to sue the township to be able to do this, that's when I thought I'd better get involved. So today, I went down to the bus area and I talked to Rick Whiteman. I know Rick Whiteman. Rick Whiteman and I, he was 2 years younger than me in high school. I trust Rick Whiteman's, whatever he said. I said to him, Rick, what's your preference here? He said, if I could have it, he said, I'd rather move down to Elaine. And he said to me, he said, you know what, I really don't have, he said, I have a lot to say, but he said, I'm going to retire soon, so no matter what they do, it's really not going to affect me. He said, but I do feel that in the long run, it would be better for the township to have the bus shed down there. And I said, that's fine, Rick. I said, I have a couple questions for you. I said, has anyone pursued the idea of adding on to what you have here? And then if you don't have enough room to take the buses either over to, Boscov's parking lot or another empty parking lot in the township for the winter. And it would only be the amount of buses that couldn't be stored there because of the addition onto that building. And I really don't know how many bays were going to be considered for down at 08. Is there anybody on the board that can tell me that? How many bays for the...
At the moment, there's 4 bays. One of them is an optional.
Okay, so 4 bays. So right now you have 1. So what you could do is do 2. And you probably could do 3 bays down there for a lot less. Now I have another question for the board. When you came up with this idea to put that down there, had you come up with any alternative plans in case it was, scrapped that you couldn't do that?
We visited 14 different sites that were considered.
Okay.
And you always have options. You always have, if this doesn't work out, then we have to come up with something else.
All right. My thing is there any possible way that this could be done the way that I said it could be done? That you could put 3 more bays down at the existing area. You can fix up what's there. I looked at the building. I've been in construction for 45 years. The building is sound. There's nothing wrong with the building that's there. You can easily add on to a building like that. You can add bathrooms onto it. You can add more offices onto it, whatever you need. Now, if it takes 15 buses away their parking, Promenade Mall, there's no one on that parking lot up there. Has anybody ever checked to see how much they would charge you to park buses there? Or if you would go to Al Boscov's, if he would even say, sure, park the buses there. Has anyone looked into that?
We looked in the Promenade Mall. One thing, if we started using that, it would take it off the tax rolls. And we would have to pay, if we would have to park there, we'd have to pay for it, which just adds additional expense. But we don't want to take it off the tax rolls. There was a $12 million mortgage put on that in about 3 to 4 years ago. So taking them all would be a double whammy. One, we'd be spending a ton of money to get it, and two, it'd be
No,
taken
I'm not
off.
saying buy the property. All I'm saying is to lease space there during the winter time to store buses. During the summertime, you can take your buses to any of the schools that you own and sit them there for the summer and not pay a bit of rent for that. You know, now Rick said to me, he said, yes, he said it would make it a little bit more difficult for him, because he said then what he would have to do is, you know, if they had to take a bus over there, they'd have to take 2 people. You know, one to go over to bring the bus back, and then one person to do all the transportation. But, you know, I still think it's a feasible thing. If we're talking, what is the latest figure on what it's going to cost down in OA?
What, 3.9?
And how long ago was that?
Last month.
So that hasn't changed. So you don't...
Actually, that is the architect's estimate.
Right.
All right, so now what the bids come in, okay, it's 3.395.
3.395.
And that's as of April 1st. And that is the architect's estimate. We don't know what the bids will come in at.
Okay. My suggestion is, let's not fight with the township. If you want to fight with the township, what's going to happen is lawsuits are going to become about. The township residents are going to have to pay for the lawsuits to try and get this pushed through. If the township says no, then there's got to be an alternative way to do it. My alternative way is, you know, to make Rick happy and the people down there happy, is to give them some bays to work out of. And, you know, if they have to park some buses someplace, you know, talk to Al Boscov. Al Boscov, I'm sure, would let you park your buses in the upper part of the parking lot for nothing. You know, he's not going to charge the township. And maybe he will. I don't know. I can't talk for that. But, you know, everybody knows that Al tries to get along with everybody. And, you know, it's just an idea. You know, if you can't get what you want, then you got to come up with an alternative plan. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
When you say 14 sites, do you mean all in Exeter Township?
One of them was in, well, there's one in St. Lawrence. And, well, actually, there's 2 in St. Lawrence, right there at the border between Pennside and St. Lawrence, where the Weichels Body Shop is. We looked there at one time. We considered the Lausch campus. And then there's about 12 others, both industrial centers, down by the Silt Basin, out across from the chicken factory, or chicken processing plant, where Hahn Engineering used to be in Baumstown. And it goes on and on.
Hi, can you guys hear me back there?
Yeah.
I'm going to beat a dead horse that's already going to be here.
If you could identify yourself and give me your address, please.
Yes, I will. My name is Chris Breedy. I'm the swim coach here at Exeter. I'm going into my 5th year. I grew up in this area, actually up on Friedensburg Road. I went to Mount Penn High School. I'm pretty sure I'm the only 6-time swimming PIAA state champion in Exeter, Oregon, in the last 40 years. Of course, I won all those in the 70s. And I was the national record holder. So from here, I went on full scholarship to the University of Florida. And I'm back here now with my kids. After living in Florida and California, where swimming is a much more friendly sport. Much more common sport. What I'm going to present sort of ties in where you're at also with the bus. I don't have any comment about the buses. I mean, I saw this thing in the newspaper yesterday from Mr. Doug LaFauci. I guess you guys maybe saw that. When he was at the public hearing about the bus barn, a comment was made about the school board chairman that busing was expensive. I asked if the school board had considered a distributed system rather than a centralized one. I mentioned that a large fire department departments do this all the time and their functionality needs are high. Did any of you read this article that was in the? Yes, I figured you did. And it got me thinking, and actually I've been thinking about it for a long, long time, because when I swam at Mount Penn High School, which of course there's no team there, I had to leave from the time I was in 9th grade till I was a senior. I had to leave and drive down every day of the week to Foxcatcher, John DuPont's estate in Newtown Square. That's where I swam. It was suburban in those days. Became Foxcatcher in 1979 when I was coming back from my freshman year in college. And yes, we put a lot of people on the U.S. Olympic team, and it was world-class swimming. I'm not the only world-class swimmer to come from this area, but all of us have had to travel to go to that site, to go to a site, either Lancaster Aquatic Club. And currently, last year, we had 52 swimmers come out for the high school team. We trained down at a 4-lane pool in Gold's Gym. It is a hole in the floor. That's great. It has water in it. It's better than nothing. And it's not feasible to travel anywhere else. I mean, we have a national class diving coach right now, Patty Pinkerton, who dived at Vassar, and she has been scrambling to find a pool rental, which now, as it turns out, is from 9 to 10:30 at night over at Muhlenberg. It's a rental. And I don't know if anyone else here realizes that all the other pools in the county, Wilson, Mifflin, Muhlenberg, Schuylkill Valley, you can't get into those places because they're booked from 5 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night, every day of the week. That's how much revenue those places make. They use them for not just the schools, but for the communities. You can teach lessons there. You can teach credentialing, like water safety, life-saving, credential all of our kids who have gone into lifeguarding. You can teach diving, you can teach water polo, which we just had 25 kids join the brand new inaugural water polo team this fall. And they had a ball. They won games. Tonight they're at Penn Ridge, out in District 1. And they need a home too, because on Saturdays they went to Albright College, which was a rental, and 2 nights a week they went to Muhlenberg as well. And any swim question anybody could ask me, I've got the answer for from a coaching standpoint, a technical standpoint. You need to know anything and you guys need lessons, I would be your girl. But I have to admit, I don't know anything about bus garages. I don't know anything about, I do know what it costs to do pool rentals generally. And it's a lot. But I know that the revenue that a community center with an aquatic center could make around here would be huge. This is an upscale area compared to Boyertown, compared to most of the other places, yes.
When they built the Gold's Gym area, the only reason they put that little hole in there, fortunately, was because we asked them to.
Yes, I have heard that.
And frankly, my daughter swam there. It wasn't the best place we ever swam, but it had water and smelled like chlorine. But I do appreciate what you're saying. I know that there was a question about here, gosh, I'd like to say like 15, 20 years ago.
Yes.
And it failed.
It's been a motion since I was in high school.
Yeah, I mean, it
Yes.
failed, you know, I know there were conversations about having a Y come into the area.
Yes.
I know that was a
With
number
that,
of years ago.
going up into Giant, which they wouldn't lease out the building.
Actually, it was a different location.
Okay.
So we're talking about a brand new building. I don't know where that went. I know at this time, I don't think we have the energy in this school district to build it, unfortunately.
Well, certainly,
So, and I appreciate where you're
I
coming from.
hear what you're saying about the energy. I mean, in my 30s and 40s, I was a very ambitious coach. You know, now I'm in my community. My daughter's a senior this year. My son will be in high school swimming in 2 years. It's not something that in my lifetime, I could see it. But I wondered if the board knew of any of the new innovation that is available in swimming for many years, happening all over the world, not really happening too much in Berks County, not happening at all in Berks County, actually, but there is a company called Myrtha, Myrtha, and what they do is they bring in prefabricated pools of any size, from hot tub size to the Olympic trials in Omaha in 2012, and the London Olympic pool. They're both Myrtha pools. Council Rock High School just put in a Myrtha pool. What they do is they go into an existing building with flooring just like this, and they build the pool up, and they do everything. They do the plumbing, they do the lighting, they do the ventilation, a lot less than digging a hole in the ground and building a building. Now, yes, they would like to speak more pointedly with me or somebody about cost, when they know, like, for example, if there is a space like this in Louch, well, certainly we can fit a 25-yard, 8-lane pool in here where we could run, I don't know if any of you have seen the new Wilson pool, where we could run district championships, which is a sellout every year. That's just one tiny little fraction of the revenue that a pool like that could make. When I was doing, I mean, I've been in competitive swimming since '75, but to me, the huge revenue maker is lessons, without a doubt. I mean, I worked out of a 4-lane pool in Los Altos, California in the mid-'90s. I trained 22 instructors in this little hole in the floor. It was outdoors, of course, in California. And we taught 1,700 lessons and grossed $100,000 in just 10 weeks, from the end of June till the middle of August. I mean, if you put the right people in place, and I'm not saying me, you know, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Brady. You know, I've been involved in swimming for 40 years now, and I know a lot of people, but I think it's a place, it's something that communities around the country are heading towards. The influx of other cultures coming west and north. Myrtha pools are being built all over Indianapolis, all over. There's one in Allentown right now. They're all over the country. And it's because the population is becoming very aquatic, centralized. Maybe football, being a really concussive sport, is having something to do with it. I don't know. But aquatics, yes.
This has come up periodically.
Yes, I know it has.
When we built Hawaii, there was a group that wanted us to consider putting a pool in there.
Yes, I know that group well.
Unfortunately, the budget has never been able to sustain it. And I'm sure it will come up again. I appreciate your heartfelt presentation, but
I think I've already spoken to Hammett about it, because, not that I don't need money from Hammett. What we need, we're in the same position as Antietam School District, as Ole and Daniel Boone. They're all clamoring for some sort of aquatic center. And he thought that it would be a good thing to present to the chamber and get I don't know the political terms he was using with me about, having this sort of situation subsidized by,
There's a way of putting that together. I'm sure that we would be in favor of it. We realize that Gold's Gym isn't the type where you'd want to have a meet or anything like that. But,
well, we can't have a meet there,
I know.
but Mertha also has a thing where they come in and they take a hole in the floor, like Gold's, or like Wilson was last year in their 6-lane pool, and expand the entire room and redo the locker rooms. Mertha does that as well, builds on to what they have. It's a Mertha renovation. Coming in, all the things are prefabricated, all the plumbing is intact, it's guaranteed, it's waterproof. It's just a world well-known.
If there were a movement in the community to do something like that, the school board was certainly interested in talking with those people. But so far as our budget right now, we couldn't accommodate that. So, but you presented your case, and we appreciate it. So,
Okay.
thank you.
I printed out these papers, why Mertha, about the Mertha technology.
You going to leave those with us?
I'm going to leave those with you guys.
Appreciate it.
I want to thank you for your comments. I think for me, the most compelling reason that was put forward for a swimming pool and a swimming program in the school was by a gentleman who, through the World War II experience, came up and said, do you know how many people died in the water, and why don't you insist that every child knows how to swim? It is a compelling reason, and I do appreciate the importance of the sport and the value of it, actually, and I thank you for this presentation because it was interesting.
Hello, I wanted to thank the school board for having this. I think it's a great opportunity for the community to express opinions and throw out ideas. I have a couple things I'd like to ask the school board.
Your name,
Oh,
please.
I'm sorry. Robert Wambold, Stonehenge Drive. You guys know me.
We know you, but everybody doesn't.
At the October 6th school board meeting, Mr. Quinner was asked about other options for the bus barn project. And one of the options that he had mentioned was that the Kerr Road facility could be expanded by acquiring adjacent properties by eminent domain. Never a popular practice, but I'd like to ask the school board if, by show of hands, we could see who would be in favor of acquiring property by eminent domain that would force people out of their existing homes, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't think that's a fair question to ask now, and I'm going to qualify your statement, and that was a statement that I made.
Yes.
However, it was in response to a question where I asked the individual concerned, what do you want me to do? And I gave him 3 options. One, throw the people out of their homes around Kerr Road by eminent domain. Fire the 60 people that we have working for us as drivers, most of them Exeter residents, and then go to a commercial outsourcing of busing. And what are the 3 options I think I gave them? I don't believe there was any more. But that taking of someone's property is repugnant. And I don't think anyone on this board would even consider that lightly. And when I mentioned it, it was in a, you don't really want me to do this type mode, I believe, and I think you'd concur in that.
Yes.
So, and that's, it's an extreme measure that would require extreme circumstances, and those circumstances aren't here. So I appreciate you not pulling the board on that.
Another question I'd like to ask is, actually call your attention to a memo to the facility committee. It was actually written by Mark Gravis, a professional engineer. The memo was dated October 4th, 2012, so it's back a ways. Mr. Gravis was, I believe, contracted to assess the Kerr Road facility following the Transportation Department study. In his memo, he mentioned several items that he had found. In his closing statement, in bold, and I quote, "It is apparent that the building has not been well funded for maintenance for some time. It should become the next focus of the committee." Mr. Gravis goes on to continue to state, "Conditions can be improved in a very short term." What my question is, has the Kerr Road facility been ignored for maintenance repair? Did the board vote to stop funding maintenance and repair at the Kerr Road facility? And is this part of a bigger plan to help build a multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art transportation center somewhere else? Sorry, that was 3 questions.
The first thing I'll respond to is actually Mark was not employed by the school board to do anything, or school district. Actually, person I worked with, structural engineer who now lives in South Carolina, I asked him if he could stop at the facility and check it out with me. During one of our board meetings, he was kind enough to spend the time that evening and walk through. What we did since that time was we had a problem with the special shingles on the side of the building. They had been removed. That was replaced with T111 siding a couple years ago. You'll notice it's like a whitish, kind of gray, kind of tan color. It's been painted on the sides since then. I think that major maintenance has not happened in the building since we've been in the discussions. But we have been doing the patches to make sure it's stayed operational at this point, in the sense that before we spend any money on it, we want to know which direction we're going. I would say that's the best answer to your questions that I have. I just wanted to clarify Mark's position is not, though he is a professional engineer, he was not engaged as a professional in this instance. Thank you.
Excuse me, Jim, when you say that, you mean we didn't pay him? I mean, he obviously is a professional.
He's a professional, as I am a professional engineer, but Mark is a professional engineer, as I am a professional engineer, but that evening he was there as a resident who happens, as his expertise, he does, he's a structural engineer. He inspects buildings, he inspects bridges, he inspects skyscrapers. I mean, some of his, well, he at one point was the engineer in charge of one of the World Series. It's like one of his claims to fame, that when they had the Subway Series, he was the engineer. So that was his expertise. And he just was kind enough to spend the evening with us.
But I mean, I guess just to clarify, he technically is a professional engineer. His opinions are those of a professional engineer.
His opinion as a professional engineer, when you walk into a situation, you see conditions, it's a responsibility to make a statement, but he was not engaged as a professional where you could ask him, for instance, to come as a professional witness because he was not engaged for professional compensation, if that makes sense.
Yes, but as a professional engineer, his words would have value. And
As mine
an
would,
expert,
yes.
yes.
Yes, he is an expert.
And I just want to repeat again, his last 2 sentences, "It is apparent that the building has not been well funded for maintenance for some time." To me, that seems like a dereliction of duties, that all buildings, property should be maintained. I don't know what the reason is for that. He mentioned a bunch of things. He actually mentioned like 9 different items of concern.
I think some of those were cleanup items and they may have been handled since that point. I think it was like broken glass items and things of that nature also, if I remember some of his concerns we were walking through. Besides some of the, obvious, and they were really, it was things laying around, it was just things that were unkempt. I think that they've been addressed by Mr. Wyman and his crew since then.
Mr. Rambo, I have heard, I've been at facility meetings, and I have heard some members of the board saying that they didn't want to put one more penny into the bus barn.
Yeah, that's what I was
Since I've been on
thinking
the
that
board.
too. I thought I heard that too. I have another point. Try not to take too much more time. At past school board meetings, it's been stated that the 1.9 million Watkin Creek lawsuit would be settled soon, and that money would be help used to pay for the bus barn. With mounting legal fees, eating away at any potential settlement, if that ever happens, where is that difference going to come from? And I also like to know, how is that litigation going? We keep hearing every few months that it's close, but that's all we ever hear.
We had a briefing from the solicitor in the last month, and there are various discoveries going on. I'm not an attorney. The bonding company did not take this very seriously, and they've taken steps recently to take depositions and that sort of thing. We happen to have one about a month and a half ago, that very much reinforced our position. They made an offer, which to resolve the thing, I think was what, $600,000, and we opted against that. Mr. Malls, the solicitor, feels it's imminent, quite frankly. So.
Is there any estimate on the legal fees to date for that lawsuit?
How much we paid? Yeah.
Well, we've engaged Fox Rothschild, and I don't have. We've engaged Fox Rothschild, and just to let you know, they're specialists in this type of construction litigation. I don't have the legal fees off the top of my head, but it probably exceeds $200,000.
Thank you. I figured it was going to be high because the zoning board meeting, was it Rothschild also involved with that? Was $30,000 for just that?
Not for the district.
For the, well, town.
For the
Township,
township.
but that's still all of us, all the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Final point, and then I'll go sit down. I've noticed that Mr. Tamura has missed several meetings recently. I don't always attend the meetings, but I always do read the minutes and sometimes even watch the videos. Has Mr. Tamura resigned, or is
Mr.
it
Tamara has not resigned. He last attended the voting meeting in August. The rule, or it's more than policy, it comes from the state, is that you will miss, that once you miss 3 scheduled voting meetings, then it must be considered. We've been in contact with Dr. Tamura. He has a new job that he took in Washington, D.C. He still lives in the township, and he will make a decision sometime in the future as to whether his new work schedule will allow him to attend the board meetings.
Should he decide to resign his seat, what is the process to fill that?
The board would have 30 days from the date of his resignation to consider applications to fill that position. If we do not fill it within 30 days, then a court could come in and fill the position, appoint someone to fill the position.
How about, could a concerned citizen apply for the seat, or?
Any resident of the township who's above 18 years old may apply for the seat.
So, someone like me?
You'd be welcome.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions.
And we will be advertised, the vacancy would be advertised, and we would solicit applications, resumes from anyone interested, and you would be welcome.
One comment, and then I'll go sit down. Maybe next time we need to see what else is going on when we schedule these, because tonight is the Safe Halloween, and also the opening game of the World Series.
This was scheduled before in July, and Mr. Trapina says if anyone misses the candy, he's got a bag up here. But we try to schedule these twice a year and publish them on the calendar so that everyone knows when they're going to be held. So
Thanks for doing that.
okay.
Robert, as you know, next Tuesday is Election Day, and there is on the Republican side, Mr. Tamira is on the ballot, but there's no one on the Democratic side. Now, if there is a citizen that would like to maybe try a write-in vote, because probably, I can't speak for Mr. Tamira, but I don't see how he can get back and forth from Washington, D.C. when he has a 5-day-a-week job.
I think that's for Mr. Tamura to decide, Pat, not your
But he
opinion.
hasn't been here for 3 months.
It is not your opinion to decide, that's
Well,
Mr.
I'm just
Tamura.
saying that someone could, in case, I mean, they could possibly win the election and then be elected by the citizens rather than we as a board appoint the citizens. So if anyone would want to do that, that is their prerogative as a citizen.
If anybody wants to write in Robert L. Wombold, feel free. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Lee Witzel. Can't hear you. Jerry Lee Witzel, 4381 Sutton Circle. I'm here basically not the bus. Because as a Philadelphia student, I had to do SEPTA, so I am great with any kind of busing as far as I'm concerned, because my daughter feels very safe. My concern is the new core curriculum, and I know that there was some issues and also discussion at the PSSA meeting last time. With the new core curriculum, is there any options with the teachers and or school having programs of an extended day or after-school programs not funded by the APTs for the students to go and have help? And I'm not saying I don't want to pay, I mean, I'll pay a tutor.
Ma'am, did you say help or health?
Help.
Help, okay.
Oh, my health is going down by the core curriculum, believe me. But I remember when I went to school, we would go after school on certain days and teachers would still be there to help us. I know this is a K-4 school that my daughter attends, but that's where the curriculum is starting new, since it's now 2 years in. Like I said in previous meetings, my daughter was in the pilot. We're still in a process. I did ask Mr. Davies last time to have somebody send me information on the actual mapping of how the core works, because what's on the website does not really show me the full mapping, and I'm still trying to get that information. I want to see when my daughter now is in 3rd grade, when she's out of high school, how is she going to maintain and continue in college with that core standard of math? But my biggest concern is, can we have programs that are not funded by the APTs, because we're already funding enough, and with the decline of revenue in people's homes, we're not fundraising a lot like we used to. Is there any way that the school board or the district could put those things together?
Certainly there's an opportunity for after-school tutoring. They have not been added to the budget through my office for this year. What we have been doing, Ms. Witzel, is, as we talked at the last PSSA meeting, we're doing a lot of work with our schedules to try to provide activity periods. One at the high school, we're looking at, we're talking with a scheduling expert there to help provide some extra time for students during the school day at no extra cost to receive tutoring help. Similarly, at the Wrighton School, right here where we are right now, and also at the junior high school.
Now, you're doing at the middle school and junior high and high school because you kind of threw them in the middle of them going through a curriculum for like 5 or 6 years.
I didn't throw...
No, like the change of the curriculum, we threw these students in. So if a kid was in kindergarten 5 years ago, now they're in 5th grade or even 6th, and now they're learning a whole new core curriculum. So
Right.
I can understand why you would put that help there, but I'm talking about the K through 4, where the students are still coming home or parents getting groups together and still trying to help them. I understand that it needs to be in the middle school, junior high, and high school, that's great, but I'm concerned about the K through 4 group.
It's Lorraine, right? Lorraine Elementary?
Lorraine, Jackson wanted to know why.
Right, I'm just wondering because well, we do have opportunities for students to come in before school sometimes, depending on the school. It's a building prerogative, ma'am. We don't have any formal after-school funds set aside for tutoring per se in any of our grades. It's not been, after-school tutoring isn't something that we're paying for right now with regard to the Common Core curriculum.
Well, with the change, why wouldn't you have that program available?
Well, to go back a little bit regarding your question about why we threw everybody into the middle of the Common Core, it's because it's a state mandate. We're required by law to provide the core curriculum, which is the Pennsylvania Core Standards, and we've been doing that. It's not, we don't begin in kindergarten and work our way up until everybody gets it. It's something that we have to just initiate.
Yeah, I got that. And like, I'm happy that my daughter started at the beginning.
Right.
But I'm just hoping that it doesn't change between now and senior year since she's only in 3rd grade. But with that change and having to teach back, and the teachers getting to learn that new, why hasn't the district looked into, or the school board say, hey, with this new curriculum, why aren't we funding these after-school programs?
Because
instead of waiting for somebody.
I think that we haven't discovered a need per se to say that there is an absolute need for an after-school tutoring program just for the core curriculum. In fact, language arts, I think, according to the state test that was given in Pennsylvania, this was one of the top 10 in the county scoring on the PSSAs. I don't think it's an issue where we're not providing enough support. I think it's just something we all have to go through, and I'm pretty sure we're not putting any pressure on our students. We're trying not to, this is not a graduation requirement, ma'am.
No, yeah.
And we're just trying to get through this change because it is very, very big. And it's very difficult for teachers to teach a new curriculum, and it's difficult for students, but I'll assure you that this year is better than last year, and next year will be better yet.
Because at the PSSA meeting, you told us not to look so deeply into that score because of changes.
That's right.
Okay, so with that, you don't see a need like for that after-school programs, just because as a parent, we're all talking about how like our kids are coming home and spending an hour or 2 on their math homework. I mean, unfortunately, I would expect more parents here, even at the PSSA meeting, I would expect more parents. I was kind of shocked that nobody is really standing up and trying to get more information. So at this...
Well, ma'am, we have community meetings for parents to come to, and they voice their opinion there, and we give them opportunities to certainly bring to our attention what you're bringing to our attention right now. And I think that I'm going to note your concern.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to our building principals to see if there's something else we can do, but I think we're handling it the right way. We're going to ease our way into this curriculum. We're not, jamming it down anybody's throat. And it's a learning curve
versus waiting for someone to ask.
But there's a learning curve involved. And the reason that we are going out into the community and talking about the PSSA changes that have been made is because we really need everybody's support. And this is a change for everybody. It's certainly a change for our students, it's a change for our teachers, and it's a change for you. And we'll get through it together. It's just that it's going to take a little while.
Okay, and the other thing, question that I had is, why does Lorraine and Jackson Wald share an art teacher?
It has to do with the number of art classes that they have.
The schedule and enrollment has not changed.
It has changed, ma'am.
In what way? Because
It went down. We've been reducing our number of classes in our elementary schools for probably the last 5 or 6 years. And what happens when you go down in enrollment, it's very easy to see that enrollment change in a 3rd or 4th grade class, but as you have special area teachers, you don't see that enrollment change very quickly because those teachers teach all the students, and it just, you find pockets in their schedule. And then you have to just redo the entire schedule so that one teacher is teaching the same number of sections as the other teacher, but it's in 2 different buildings. It's a very common practice, and it's a very good use of our resources. We have a great art teacher, we have a great music teacher that does the exact same thing.
Yeah, I miss the art teacher that was at Lorraine. She's at high
She's
school.
an excellent teacher, and she's doing a great job for our high school students.
Yeah, I really liked her. She encouraged my daughter for music and art, but now...
I agree, she's wonderful.
Yeah, we used to have art and music twice a week, now we only have it once a week.
But you
Or
also
once a
have...
cycle, sorry, once a cycle.
And you have health, okay,
Yeah.
once a cycle, which is another required course. We have standards for health, and we also have a research course that we're trying to build our computer literacy skills in our elementary grades so that they can become more proficient with the computer and
That's what the resource is that the IT? Like computer information, that's what it is now?
no, it's a research class, man, that
Okay.
it's a research class that is run by our librarian, and they use the computer lab often to help with computer skills.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Robert Bechtel. I live at West Neversink Road in Exeter. First off, I'd like to oppose the bus garage because it does nothing for the students, it does nothing for their grades. Although I'd like to see perhaps a better bus garage, I've toured the facility. It does need some work. We also probably need more room. But I don't know if we need a $4 million or $3.5 million bus garage. We might do with a $250,000 pole building somewhere else. We also could, I hate to see us sue the township, and I pay both ends of the lawyer fees. I think this board is mostly confrontational over the last several issues. It needs to be more cooperative and not confrontational. All or one, we win and they lose. We need to cooperate with the township and with the taxpayers. In the past, I mean, as an example, we didn't buy Exeter Ridge. St. Joe's bought it for $2 million, less than half of what we paid, or at least offered to pay. I mean, the majority of the board voted for that. Most of you people on the board voted for that.
No, the majority of the board did not vote for that.
You did originally, and signed an agreement, and then rescinded your vote so you could bring it up again in the future because you're with the majority.
You're wrong, Mr. Bechtel, but that's all right.
Just to clarify, St. Joe's didn't buy the property, it was bought by somebody else and will be the primary
Okay,
tenant.
well,
So
it was
just-
$2 million.
Whatever the
I
price was, I
understand.
just
St.
wanted to
Joe's
clarify.
moving in. I'll correct my
Okay,
mistake.
thanks.
Anyhow, I'd just like you to reflect on your past decisions and try to cooperate more rather than be more confrontational with the taxpayers and the township. I think we could definitely have room for a smaller bus garage and refurbish the one we have. I definitely agree we need to do something. Thank you.
Thank you. I've heard it said before that the busing does nothing for the children. Quite frankly, unless we get the kids to the school, we can't give them an education. Now, we can, I don't know what else we can do, but buses are the accepted norm for that. So they do contribute to the education of the child. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Dennis Hartline. I live in Executive Circle and Exeter Township. Two questions I want to ask right now is, one, we said $3.5 million for a new bus garage, correct?
Yes, sir. 3.395.
How? 3.395. Now, there was a study on that, and that's what it would cost for that?
Yes. That's the estimate, the architect's estimate.
Has there been a study on the old bus garage and how much it would cost to renew or?
Yes, there was.
How much was that?
I don't have that figure. The architect considered it a wash when compared to the new building.
But do you have any figures that you can give?
I don't have them right here, no, sir.
So the people, and since this is a democracy, the people can decide which is a wash, whether or not it is feasible for the new bus garage for $3.5 million, or to renovate the old bus garage for, apparently nobody knows what that cost would be, but it's not feasible. If that was the case, my question is, why wasn't, everybody seems to know what the cost is to build a new garage, but nobody knows what the cost is to renovate or rejuvenate the old garage and everything else. Now, also another thing is, this morning I take a daily walk. In Exeter Town, where I live, near Hearthstone Drive over in Crestwood and everything else, I see 3 buses going around picking up kids. Now, has there been a study on what efficiency or how we can make the buses more efficient, and how it's running the school, the bus lines and the buses and everything else, and to make these bus services more efficient? And maybe we don't need how many buses do we have in the Exeter School District? 60?
50.
How many?
50 buses.
50 buses, and we have 60 employees?
We also have 15 vans.
15 vans? Okay. Now, has there been a study on how to efficiently control or do more of an efficient way of transporting our students to the schools, which would save us a little bit of money? And then maybe if we would eliminate some of the buses, and you said something about, well, we have an option of whether or not we could, do you want to fire the 60 people? Well, as a person who's been working, I work for Al Bosco, by the way, as a person who's working for Al Bosco, it was a hard decision to close 10 stores and having those people basically lose their jobs. I want to know 2 things. One, the cost of redoing the old bus terminal or the bus system. 2, a cost of how to run our transporting of our children to the schools in a better light. Maybe we can save some money there. 3, I want to save money because my taxes are way too high. So if we can do those things, I get very nervous when I'm speaking.
Relax, nobody's going to hit you.
Well,
Yeah.
They say imagine your audience as naked. Well, we won't do that.
That's a scary thought. Don't bother.
But as far as the efficiency, let's have some things that we can show to the people as far as the efficiency of the new bus system, the efficiency of running the old bus system. We have to make a decision. We have to make a decision of laying off or firing some people to make it more efficient, then let's do that.
Could I, for a second? I can't answer your first question because obviously, as Mr. Quinter said, we don't have the data here. The second one, I would say that this evening, Mr. Whiteman's here. He has software every year. He's running our software to see where the students live. He maps the township. He looks for how can we fill the buses in a way for Pasco. Do buses cross? Yes. I can tell you there are 3 to 4 buses that go through Farming Ridge where I live. And I can tell you that on a morning, I can see that bus go this way and this bus goes that way. I can tell you that the children go to Catholic. I can tell you the children being picked up by the Catholic Church, the bus goes this way down my street and the bus goes this way when it's going to the public school. But I know at the end of the day, we only have as many buses as we need to move the children. The problem is we have a lot of children to move to certain places. Like I know everyone coming out of Farming Ridge are all trying to get to Wadden Creek if they're going to elementary school. You know, I mean, and there's a lot of kids that live there. So it's basically he fills in a pattern. I couldn't explain it. Mr. Whiteman could explain how software works.
So far as the renovation of the current building, we spent $10,000 and there's a study and we can get the figures for you. It was a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I don't even know how long ago it was, but we can get those figures for you. Now, so far as the efficiency of our busing operation, that was analyzed a few years ago, and it was found that our transportation system, mostly due to the people's efficiency and people's effort, is more efficient than 70 to 80% of the transportation systems in the state of Pennsylvania. So far as the number of dollars we dedicate toward busing, for the number of people miles, for the number of student miles, and the number of students. So yes, there has been a study been done, and I've got that on my computer. If you want to give me a email address, I'll email it to you. So, what other questions do you have?
The other question is, in just the effect of building a new bus station or bus terminal or having the old one redone, I think that is an agenda that needs to be put to the voters.
That's not allowed by the state of Pennsylvania. We are responsible for making the decision, the school board is, as an elected sub-body of the House of Representatives of the legislature.
Can it be put on the ballot?
It cannot be put on the ballot. It cannot be put on the ballot.
Can it be advertised or in the paper? Can it be put in the paper or in the bulletin that is issued by the school board? Can it be put in there stating the difference? And if you have an opinion on it?
Well, there have been several meetings held on the transportation center. That's why we have these meetings every.
Well, I don't think they're being advertised to worry about very well.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ.
And why is there more people here?
Because they don't choose to be here. They do not choose to be here.
Bob, if I could just jump in. I appreciate where you're coming from. I haven't supported the project, but I will say that this project has been discussed, at least in the 2 years that I have been on the board. If you go back and you look at if you look at the minutes, we have tried to get the people involved. We've tried to get opinions from folks. There are lots of different ways in this digital age to communicate with the board. So I don't think it's entirely fair to question either the attendance here or to question the board, because everything that we do does happen in public, and it has happened over the last 2 years.
Okay. The other thing is we're suing the township. Is that correct? Or the township?
We have put the papers to file a suit into the courthouse because the way that the zoning hearing board in the township is set up, we have 30 days from the time the zoning hearing board publishes their decision to file an appeal. The paperwork has been in. As of right now, that's where it is. The paperwork is in. We would not have been fulfilling our legal responsibilities had we not filed that paper. Now, that said, at the same time, we are having good faith discussions with the township with a specific intent to avoid going to the courts. I just got, we had a meeting with two of the supervisors the first week of this month, gave them a bunch of information, was waiting for them to get back to us for the second meeting. I got the email today from the township supervisors saying that they'd like to set up a meeting sometime in the near future. I just read it on my way out the door, and I'll have to respond to that, and then we'll have another meeting. And as long as there's a good faith effort on everybody's part, there's no need to go to the courts.
At what point is the school board going to swallow its pride and say, okay, we can't get
It's not
this?
a matter of pride, sir, it's a matter of requirements.
As far as saying, okay, this is not feasible, nobody wants it, we need to look in another direction in order to solve it.
We are attempting to solve the problem. So far as nobody wanting it, I had someone say, hey, there's 770 people on the website. Well, I happen to be on the website, my whole family's on the website, and believe me, it's not because they support the website. It's because they want to see what's said. There's over 20,000 people who live in this township. We managed to get, I think the most we had at any of the meetings was 250. This is a representative democracy, and the people on this board are elected to make the decisions on what the school has to do. So this is a problem that's being worked through. What it ends up, we don't know. We do know that we need some improvements in that area. No one gains anything here. It is making a decision for the best part of the school district and the residents and the children that go to school. It's three things we owe our allegiance to. All right?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Joe Rowland again. If your architect is telling you that's a wash, not to put an addition on down there and redo that down there, you need another architect. Because building something new will always cost more than putting an addition on there. When you already have you have a building, you already have one bay there. You have to add 2 bays onto it, and you have to add some other things to it to make it right, to give them office space and stuff. You can't tell me that's going to cost $4 million, because it isn't. You need a new architect. That's what you need.
I'm very confident in our architect, and there are things that he has to consider that you can't see on a walk around. Did you notice there was no drainage in that facility?
All right, are you going to have to put drainage in down there?
Well, unless we can get a waiver from somebody, we're going to have to do something to get rid of the stormwater.
Are you going to have to put electric down there? Are you going to have to put water down there?
Yes, we are.
Are you going to have to do a lot more than what you have there right now?
We have to put water in there because the well's running dry, right? We have to put a drainage system in there unless we get relief from somebody, all right? Unless we get relief on the setback, on the heights, there's a 35-foot building height that we would have to get a waiver on. We have to get a waiver on the coverage, the hard surface coverage of the lot. And this is what we're talking to the township about.
And you don't have to do any of that down at OE.
No, we don't.
And why don't you?
Because we own 90-some acres at a while.
But you don't have to go down there and repave everything. You don't have to put storm sewers in. You don't have to do anything.
That's why he's saying it's a wash.
No, it's not a wash.
Well,
No way that that can be a wash.
Sir, with all due respect, the architect spent a lot of time going over the requirements and the laws, and I appreciate your opinion.
All right.
But he has to satisfy the law.
And you don't have,
Setbacks.
and you don't have a price on his wash yet.
We have it, but it was 2-3 years ago. I don't have the paperwork here, sir, all right?
And 2 or 3 years ago was the cost of the building $3.5 million.
No, 2 or 3 years ago it was 2.5.
Okay, so it was a wash back then? So now you've added another...
Well, that was under a different way of contracting, quite frankly. No, we're not getting anywhere, Mr. Walden. You know, I'm just saying that as...
I agree with the man that was just up here. You need to check into that again.
Well, that, I've already told him I'm going to get the study for him, all right?
Okay. But don't tell me that it takes something brand new where you're putting up 3 new bays and you already own a building with a bay in it, that it's going to be a wash until everything's done. There's no way. I'll never believe that. And I'll be glad to sit down with your architect and talk to him about it.
Thank you, sir.
Ridiculous. Thank you.
Mr. Pitts.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm the facilities director, Ken Pitts. And I've been involved with the project as we look through it for multiple years. We did not study the whole thing on the Kerr Road site. The architect did look at what the deltas would be. So, no, we did not do a full study, but we looked at if we tried to take the program we were looking at for the Watton Creek site, put it on Kerr Road, what would the differences be between those two sites? The architect looked at what those differences were. And a lot of the things that Mr. Quinter was talking about in terms of the variances, I believe there were about 8 of them we would have to do because that site is so close. The architect did do a site survey. So the difference between the two sites that was compared was, what is the difference between a Watton Creek, a relatively flat site that has plenty of storm drain capacity already, versus the Kerr Road, which had none. So, I mean, the details go into a lot of things, but the reason it's a wash is because the site work, the stormwater management, and the variances between the two, a Watton Creek was a lot cheaper. You'd have to do a lot of stormwater management at the Kerr Road. The other key thing in that is when he went through the study of the 2 sites, the program that we want to do to be able to handle the amount of buses, any possible chance of growth, we couldn't even do the minimum program at Kerr Road. He did a study based on the cost would be a wash, but you would get less because you didn't have as much room. And all the things, once you do a major renovation, you have to bring everything up to current code. Current codes would include setbacks, limited accesses onto Kerr Road, no access onto Shelbourne, which is a state road. There are a lot of details that went into that. And when you look at the 2 of them, the difference was all the work that you'd have to do to try to mitigate all the problems of having effectively a postage stamp bus facility versus having something that you already had all the stormwater taken care of because Watton Creek was built with the capacity of having another elementary building there, potentially a bus garage, potentially an admin building. So the stormwater facilities were already put in place for those things, and that is a huge cost. Does that answer your question, sir?
I want to know one thing. For 38 years, we've been running buses out of that shed without a problem. And Rick even said to me, he said, we've done this for 38 years. He said, the first year that I came in here, he said, the school board, the first thing they said to me is, we're going to get you out of Kerr Road. That was 38 years ago. Now all of a sudden, 38 years later, we have to do something about it? What has happened in 38 years?
A lot of things, and I don't want to steal any thunder from the board, but we've gone from probably less than 2,000 kids. At one point, we were up to around 4,500 kids. I think we're down to like 4,100 or so. Requirements for buses have changed. Requirements for setbacks have changed. A lot of things have changed in the last 38 years. Your beard was probably a little darker 38 years ago. So yeah, things change. Regulatory requirements, the capacity for doing things, the need for busing. These things have all changed. We've done a lot just in the last 10 years, let alone how far we've gone in the last 38 years.
I have a question. Getting back to your comment, what you said, that you have all the facilities there at the
stormwater facilities.
Stormwater facilities,
Yep.
and the facilities for electric and runoff and that kind of stuff. It's all there.
We have primary power on that site that we can slave off of. It was, again, designed for a multi-building capacity on that.
Okay, so the decision to change.
But you still have to do, it's not like the stub ups are sticking there.
Yeah. So the decision to change from the current facility to the new facility was made in the building first.
No, it was not, sir. The decision was made to, because it's 90 some acres out of Owatton, the decision was made, we saw how many buildings we could legitimately put on there, how many facilities. And we did the electric and all the other support things in order to facilitate making use of the land. So there was when we decided to build Owatton, we were looking at a bus facility on Lincoln Road. The thoughts with Owatton was another junior high school and an admin building. It was the three buildings we foresaw for Owatton Road. We have a question here. Please do.
For what it's worth, and this is just general information, but it's always amazed me. It must be about 3 years ago now, I said to Mr. Bregman at one of his presentations, I said, is it really true that our buses travel 650,000 miles a year? And he said, yes, it is. And I said, so where do they go? We only have a few schools. And he said, well, we actually take kids to between 38 and 42 schools every day. The population in Exeter Township between 1990 and 2000 increased 22%. It was one of the highest growth rates in the county. Hence, we had more kids. And the other thing that I'd like to comment on, because I have a feasibility, I have a study that goes back, or information that goes back. We actually did try and purchase land down by Kerr Row back in 2001. We were in discussions with Mr. Greff, who had property back there, and they fell through. So it wasn't as if that idea wasn't considered at one point. It's just that that property it wasn't available anymore when he said, sorry, I'm not interested. But you must understand that whatever the school district does, whatever it does, it requires a variance from the township to do it. So that's the relationship that we're in, and we deal with it as best that we can. So that's just a few odds and ends, and I thank you for listening.
I have a question submitted in writing by a member of the audience. In addition to funding for a bus garage, has the board considered the mandatory increased funding for district PISA contributions, health insurance premiums, and other things which have been on the rise yearly? The majority of residents cannot afford all these expenses. Short answer, yes. We're budgeted out 5 years on PISAs and these other expenses. Opinion. I cannot understand the willingness of this board to spend money. Everything has to be the best. You people should treat this as a business. No money, cut spending. Try it. Do something different. Well, I don't know how a structural steel pre-designed building can be considered everything the best. If I was going to make it best, we'd have masonry and other things. Another comment, opinion. We must first invest in education of the children. Property owners cannot support the school system spending $3.5 million on a place to fix buses. It is not spending funds wisely. For $3.5 million, I would seek outside contractors, and I know you did look into this. So I say select the lowest bidder and try this before spending $3.5 million. Property owners should not have to pay to run the schools. We'll start with the first part. When we looked at contracting, the closest thing that came, the closest savings we had were 100,000, maybe 200,000 a year we would have saved, or 400,000 a year. But that bid gave us $400,000 less when they bought our fleet than any of the other bids. So we were essentially paying for any savings out of giving a discount on selling our fleet of buses. It has become the point of many studies, and if it depends on which study you read. You can get studies that are put out by the bus manufacturer or the bus driver companies, the transportation companies, and it's more efficient. You can go and get things put out by school districts and states. The state of Washington has a very good study on it that says, hey, maybe this outsourcing wasn't as good a deal. Now, I've run several businesses, and so far as outsourcing goes, all right, I want to outsource my transportation. So I go to a commercial operations. Now he is paying his drivers also. Our drivers don't make much more, don't make any more, or they make less than the commercial rate. He is having to fix the buses. He is having to buy buses. He is having to store these buses. He is having to buy fuel. He has all of the same expenses I do. Our drivers work less than 30 hours a week. Therefore, we do not provide them with medical care. He may have to provide medical care if his drivers work more than 30 hours a week. One of the considerations on where to put this facility is to preclude our drivers going over that 28 hours or so that they're working now, because we don't want to provide insurance, medical insurance for them, which we would have to do under the Affordable Care Act. So that is one of the reasons that we're not too flexible on where we can put it, because as soon as we put it at the wrong place, then we have to buy medical insurance for those drivers. It's just another one of the considerations. But it is not a Taj McGarage or whatever it's called on the board. It's a steel structural building with an office and a meeting room and some facilities for the drivers to go to the toilet. It has the bays to work on the buses, and that's it. It has a wash bay, but that, huh?
What do you mean wash?
No, it's got a machine to wash it. That is also an alternate part of the bid. So that could be dropped out if it is too expensive. Sir.
Robert L. Wombold. I just want to touch on a couple things that were said. Mr. Davies said enrollment has been dropping the last 5 to 6 years. So if we're building for the future, shouldn't we have less than 1 bay rather than going to 4 bays? It seems like we're building for the future, but if the future says enrollment is dropping, maybe we're doing the wrong thing.
All right. The enrollment of a school district is a wave. When I was in, it was the baby boom in the 50s and the 60s. It went up, we had maybe 1,800 kids in the school system. Well, when they opened up 422, we got the big deluge coming in. Now, we have dropped 400 kids in the last 4 or 5 years. My dad died a few years ago. Of course, he didn't have any kids, but I sold his house to somebody with kids. Well, he didn't have any kids that lived. No, he didn't have any children in school. But he was living there alone. No children going to school, but he died. Now there's a young couple in there, and they're very, although I tried to get a requirement for residents moving into Exeter to be sterilized, the board wouldn't go along with it. So, across the street, I got a little grandchild now. He runs around the house. He's going to be going to school. So what I'm saying is the natural flow of life. People die, and then younger people take their places, and then it'll build up again. So
I know I've lived in the same house for 17 years, and I've seen my neighborhood change. And what I've seen, probably the last few houses, there's been actually people moving out who have kids, and people who are older moving in with no kids. I can think of like 2 examples, within eyesight of my house. My direct next door neighbor, across the street up, 3 houses, and several up. Some of the people that say their kids are out of the system, so I don't understand, but
yeah, and I can tell you that as a realtor, most of the people I see are of childbearing ages.
okay. I just was sorry, Todd. I used what you had said, and
yeah, no problem.
Another thing, we've been talking about moving to the new $3.4 million transportation thing, but I've been following this thing for a long time, not as long as you, but since the tour a couple years ago at Kerr Road, I take notes all the time and put them in my phone or somewhere. And I do recall some of the things that were mentioned at Kerr Road that had to be done. One was that roof, because the roof is bad, and that needed to be replaced, and I think the estimate was $60,000 or $80,000 for that. The pumps, they're old, the parts are not available, so they needed to be replaced. Hafer Petroleum also did a study of the tanks. Replacing the tanks was going to be hundreds of grand. I think it was $300,000 or $400,000. But they did say it wasn't an important thing, didn't have to be done right away. So just right there, 100 grand looks like it gets us moving in the right direction. When I remember being down there, and there were places where there were tires stored and parts stored. There's got to be a better place. If you're tight for storage, rent one of those roll-up things across Perkiomen Avenue. Move those tires there. I don't think they need to be needed, access right away. That area could be converted to something, an office, meeting room, I don't know. But